Oh, Yua! Finally! Ah!
Watch.
Kingdom Hearts style? Maybe she was just trying to deceive me.
Maybe she was just trying to deceive me. Come on, Kyle.
How's it going, everybody? HoodlaMutt here, back with some more Chaos Head Noah. And last time, we made our little sister call what could have been some psycho or whatever for us to see if it was actually a prank call or not that was sent to us, which was kind of screwed. But then we found that the number had been disconnected, so whoever called us, it was either some freak thing, or maybe it wasn't a real person, maybe it was a delusion. Like, we don't know what it is right now. My personal guess is that it was somebody, but obviously they only want us to hear whatever they were trying to send. My current conspiracy theory is it's probably Shogun, but I don't have anything to back that up currently. After that, and being embarrassed by her yelling at us when we wouldn't take her to McD's, we went to a manga shop. Couldn't find what we wanted because something like it was really hard to find. It had been getting sold out. And we couldn't ask the clerk about it because, of course, because it's Takumi, it had to be pervy. Because that's just the way it is, apparently. After that, we saw this white chain just lying in the scramble crossing, and we followed it all the way until we found this train car without any sort of attachment to a rail, some kind of a monument or something. And inside was Senna by herself, and no one else entered with us and didn't enter while we were talking to her. And she explained to us how basically we're in the Matrix, for just to sum it up, basically. She was saying there are imperfections in the world, and that the chain was her own delusion that she made, all kinds of crazy stuff. Of course, Takumi didn't really know what to think of it, but it gave us a little more direction on where this game is taking us, seemingly towards some sort of a simulation mindset, and that the ones that are noticing that they're in the simulation are able to have these different abilities because they've become the one. They've become the Neos of this world, you know? Yeah, and so after that, she left, and then we went back home, and now we're here. So, let's just get back into it, shall we? So yeah, that's how I ended up getting tangled up with an IRL Chuni chick. Okay, jerk. This time you have ticked me off. Huh? Seriously, Lord Nidhart? You're always saying crap like, oh, I don't give a crap about 3D, but you've been getting... wait, I lost my spot. Okay, you've been getting real nice and close with a bunch of 3D girls recently, haven't you? You even said earlier that one of them broke into your house. I don't care who you ask. That's straight out of an eroge. Yeah! You've plunged straight into your once-in-a-lifetime chance to be popular. Alright, listen well. I'll admit that I have indeed amassed quite the number of opportunities to speak with cute females. Why do you just call them girls, dude. You don't gotta call them females, that makes you sound weird. Brother. However, every single IRL one is a freaking mental case. You try being on the receiving end of their brain-melting Denpa attacks. The sheer scale of schizo is legitimately horrifying. Shiver, shiver. Okay. I truly am sorry. Wee. Don't worry about it. Yeah. Even after I'd gotten back home, I'd still been somewhat interested in what Senna had told me. Of course, I didn't think that what she had said was true, but I was pretty sure that I'd be able to confirm it myself if I did a little bit of research into the patent and the memorandum specifically. So, with Grimm's help, I started searching the internet. I also was able to get one of Grimm's friends who lived in America to help out as well. But even with all that help, I still didn't think we were going to find anything. In this day and age, you couldn't trust anyone without a source. Okay. Yo, I just got a message from Shiho. Shiho was the friend of Grimm that I'd mentioned earlier. He lived in America and spoke fluent English. Okay. Let me guess. BS, right? That stupid freaking mental case. She had to have just been making a fool out of me because she didn't think I could understand English. Don't underestimate the power of the internet. Consider yourself pwned. It exists, apparently. Huh? It exists? What did? The guy went out of his way to TL it for us. I don't know what TL is. Anyway, let me up it. Is this just more bait? Man, you don't trust me at all, do you, Lamau? Although that's probably my fault for being a jerk most of the time. Lol. Okay. Okay then. How about I invite Shiho instead? Could it actually be real? I'd been tricked by Grimm several times in the past. If I trusted him like I usually did, he'd hit me with something so bad that it'd make my brain blue screen. But he was saying that he was going to invite Shiho, and that he even had a source for us. Okay. If this is just you baiting me again, I'll kick you out of the guild. KK, trust me, just this once. He was being surprisingly confident. Maybe it really was okay to trust him this time. Darn it. I'm such an easy target. Slightly nervous, I squinted my eyes halfway shut to protect myself from seeing anything too quickly or too clearly, and then I clicked the link. What link? There was no link. Huh? What is this? It was a document written in English with a bunch of strange diagrams on the lower half. Part of it looked like a human face. The headline read, United States Patent. I knew that much, at least. In other words, this was an actual US patent. Huh. Do you know what VR technology is? There have already been successful tests, to the point where the research team behind it have already obtained a patent for it. It was real. I then went to open one of the 2 text files that had come bundled with it. One of them had a series of news articles that seemed to mention the patent, all of which were translated into Japanese. One said that the Psychophysiology Research Laboratory of America's Victor Condria University was currently researching a groundbreaking invention known as VR, visual rebuilding. Oh, there it is, Victor Condria! Yo, what the frick? It was in this one? It was in this before Steins Gate Zero. Okay. Yo, what the heck? Okay. Everything's starting to connect. As the goal of the research was primarily for healthcare, it had been gaining the attention of visually impaired people from all over the world. It was groundbreaking technology that enabled people who were blind from birth to see the scenery in front of them through video cameras and other imaging devices. To put it simply, this was done by converting signals, the ones that composed the image data that the video camera received, into the only signal the brain could recognize, electrical signals known as nerve impulses. These are then transported to the brain via the optic nerve. There had already been successful tests, and the patent had already been registered. The patent... it was actually approved. So, did that mean that what Senna had said wasn't just some chuny delusion? I gulped, then went to open the other text file. I began reading Presidential Documents Memorandum of March 27th, 1997. Strengthened protections for human subjects of classified research. The agencies shall jointly propose to prohibit waiver of informed consent for classified research, part of it said. Wait, so prohibit waiver of informed consent. Wait, prohibit a waiver of informed consent? Which means that you didn't give people informed consent? You didn't give them a waiver to get their consent? Is that what I'm understanding? Okay. Beginning 1 year after the date of this memorandum, no agency shall conduct or support classified human research without having proposed and promulgated the common rule, said another. The document was then signed at the bottom by William J. Clinton and closed with the White House, Washington, March 27th, 1997. A memorandum from the President of the United States. The contents sounded like the premise to a movie or something, so I never would have thought it was actually real. I went to check the original document via the URL. Even I could read English for the most part. Despite how I might have looked, I was a lot smarter than those DQNs that went to school every day. The actual contents written in the document were the same as the translated text. Which means... Senna's words echoed in the back of my mind.
If it's possible to convert specific information into nerve impulses, wouldn't it be possible to control all 5 of the senses, and even the free will of people itself?
It was starting to get somewhat difficult to understand at this point, but with what Senna had told me, combined with the sources we'd found online that backed her up, it all sent chills down my spine. I had a feeling that something terrible was lurking within. But what confused me the most was what Senna's true intentions were in telling me all this. Well, probably because she notices that you're like her, right? Like, she even questioned you down, right? She was like, oh, you came just like I said or whatever and all that, so that's probably why for that. But this is interesting. This is very... Steins Gate did a very similar pattern, and obviously was kind of like, it's weird to say copying, but it's like it's going through a lot of the same motions that that this game is apparently now going through, because it all started with this like intense research, you know what I mean, of understanding what the science was behind time travel, for instance, in that case, and whatnot. And in this case, now it's about what they call it, visual rebuilding. So that's interesting. I wonder if we're gonna have like organizations coming after us. I mean, they're kind of a little more forthcoming with that concept now. In Steins Gate, it was hidden. Like, it just seemed to be Okabe's, Chinibyo-ness just when he was talking, until all of a sudden, suddenly there was an organization of some kind. Where in this one, it's just outright telling you about, what was that called? Nonomi or Nozomi? Whatever that corporation is called, I can't remember now. But, they're just there. And we've actually gotten to see behind the scenes a little bit, so... Huh. Okay. Did it have anything to do with me? The
part about being able to control people's free will definitely wasn't something I could dismiss as somebody else's problem. Because there was the possibility that I was a sleepwalker. Oh, true! Yeah, I wasn't even thinking about that. Yeah, so that does kind of affect him too. If they could affect people's free will, what the heck? On the day of the third New Gen incident, the crucifixion, I had been told that I'd been posting in a chat room as Shogun. Apparently, I'd posted from @cafe too, but I had no memory of any of it. And not only that, but I had absolutely no memory of Demi too. We had been classmates for over a year, and we had been close enough to hang out on multiple occasions, yet I had no memory of any of it. Maybe I had done all of those things while I was being manipulated by some other being. Besides, I was terrible at talking to 3D girls to begin with, so there was no way I would be close to a cute girl like Demi normally. No. I was thinking too hard about this. At the very least, I knew that the chat thing was just one of Yua's delusions. Shogun was a separate entity from me. He was trying to entrap me, and it didn't go beyond that. This was true regardless of whether or not he had actually been the old man in the wheelchair that had appeared in front of 10-7. Maybe Senna, too, was one of Shogun's underlings. Maybe she was just trying to deceive me. Don't blindly accept everything without questioning it. Don't trust a suspicious girl that you don't actually know. Senna and Yua were both of the same breed. That's how it should go. Right, Seiratan? Interesting that he doesn't trust Senna and Yua when I actually trust them more than I trust Demi. But see, the only reason I don't trust Demi is because of the very opening kind of cinematic that we had, where she, like, kills him. So something's not right with her. Maybe her free will was taken from her or something, you know? But that's where a lot of my distrust comes from. It's not even from the fact that we saw her kill somebody, because that could be something completely different. Because obviously that other part was, like, somewhere further on in the game. So, but I don't distrust Senna for sure. She's definitely seems pretty legit. And I definitely think Yua's okay, because she doesn't seem like she knows what's going on, especially because we got an inside look into her own life by herself. So the only, like, the least trustworthy of the two would be Senna, because we barely had any time alone with her. We did have that one scene, but it was out in public. It just, like, there wasn't a whole lot to go off of, because she's so aloof, you know? Of course, Fess doesn't seemingly have anything that would make us question her, seemingly, at this very moment, other than the prophecies. She actually tried to help us. She told us to get a dye sword, right? And then Kozue is just, she just seems kind of like innocent in it all. So I don't really know if she's innocent, but she comes across that way. So Demi is the only one that obviously has been reading our mind, but isn't telling us anything about it, right? She's not talking to us about the imperfections or whatever and the errors that, like, Senna has, right? Like, Senna wouldn't give us that information probably if she was against us. I think she's trying to help wake us up, but she's in her whole, she's trying to figure things out herself to some degree, but, like, in a different, she's already, like, understood a lot and is trying, she's like in a different section trying to understand stuff, probably trying to figure out how to get out of the simulation, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Where then with us, she's just, like, dropping us hints to try and, you know, wake us up. But she's almost, like, so far above us seemingly that she's not really talking to us to try and, like, help us like Fess is. She's more like, she's in the playing field of, like, I got to figure out how to get out of here. I don't have time to deal with you right now. You know what I mean? Yet she still is kind of saying, like, you know, come meet me at this place. It's like slowly letting him come to the realization himself, him being Takumi, that he's in a simulation of some sort. Seemingly, that's what it's coming across as. It's almost like he needs to figure it out for himself in order to believe it, you know? Oh! Okay. Oh, Yua! Finally!
I've been waiting for you. Gosh dang, it's been like 6 episodes, I think, since we last saw her. Dang, probably more. The only sound present in the room was the distinct clacking of a keyboard. Kusunoki Yua's thin, supple fingers moved as if they were dancing, her gaze fixed on the monitor all the while. Her touch typing was effortless, and she made next to no typos. She was writing an email. A very long one at that. Yua had already been writing for almost half an hour, endlessly deliberating over the contents of the email and making frequent revisions as she continued to type. Suddenly, her fingers stopped moving. With a small, pained sigh, she abruptly pressed and held down the backspace key. The cursor that was lit up on the monitor began scrolling leftward at high speed. All of the long sentences she had written so far disappeared nearly instantaneously as the cursor traveled across the screen. When all of the contents had been erased, Yua took hold of the ghetto froggy stuffed animal lying on her bed, then hugged it tightly to her chest. This was a habit that Yua had developed recently. If she did not hug something in this way, she would be faced with unbearable anxiety. Burying her chin in the stuffed animal, Yua sighed once again and shook her head softly.
Please, give me the courage to do this.
Murmuring softly to no one in particular, Yua's expression stiffened. What, is she trying to write us an email? Maybe she might be writing somebody else, but I would assume it's us. With the stuffed animal resting on her lap, she returned her hands to the keyboard. Within the monitor, each letter she typed in a fluid manner was quickly displayed in sequence. Compared to the one she had erased just moments before, this email was far more short and simple. It only served to provide the bare necessities of what she needed to convey. That's the way to do it. When she finished writing, Yua hesitated for a moment, and then she resolutely clicked on the send icon.
I sent it.
Before she could stop it from going through, the email had already been sent in the blink of an eye. Yua squeezed the ghetto froggy sitting on her lap tightly and continued to stare at the monitor in front of her for over an hour. Although she had not been expecting one, there was no sign of a reply at all. I bet she sent that to Takumi. There I was, in my beloved room 37. As I sank down into the recliner, I started chewing on my nails in an attempt to distract myself from my irritation. There was a reason why I'd come to At Cafe 2 days in a row, yesterday and today. 2 nights ago, after Grim, Shiho, and I had found out that what Senna had said was true, I'd received an email from Yua. Yeah, I had a feeling. In it, she insolently said that she wanted to talk to me one more time. Screw off, I'd wanted to tell her. What the heck did she mean she wanted to talk? After deceiving me like that? I had nothing to say to her. Even if I did, she'd probably just come up with some new fancy way to trap me when I went to see her. As if I could risk that. It was true that I wasn't used to talking to girls. That was why I'd been so happy back when Yua was hitting on me. And yet, the harlot had been toying with me behind my back. And on top of that, she'd come up with all those insane delusions. Even I had delusions, sure, but I never bothered anyone else with them. But that girl assaulted me with her schizo BS that treated me like I was the new gen culprit. I could never forgive what she'd done to me. Never. Gotta get over that, man. So, I'd ignored her email, but there had still been one thing that concerned me. In her email, she'd said she was going to come to my base, and I knew for a fact that she knew my address. That was why I decided to take refuge in At Cafe, despite it not being a school day. Oh, okay. If I had the option, I would have brought my dye sword as a protection charm, but unlike Senna, I didn't have the courage to walk down Center Guy with it. Yeah, he's just like not accepting anything Senna said so far. Like he's like, oh, what she said was true, but she specifically said that like the chain was her delusion, right? Like he's not picking up on those things, you know? He still thinks that like she was actually carrying a sword, and then when he didn't know what happened to it, he's just like, oh, it just disappeared. What happened? He's like, he's not thinking of those things. You know what I mean? It's kind of goofy, but anyway. At any rate, spending almost half a day in an internet cafe was fairly tiring. The recliners were comfortable, and it was equipped with showers, but I still couldn't fully relax like I could at my base. And then the biggest problem of all, Seratan wasn't here. After 2 days spent holed up in the cafe, I realized just how much the mere presence of Seratan helped me. I wanted to hurry up and get back to my base as soon as possible. But going back late at night would mean the date would change. And by that time, the last train would already be gone. I figured that Yua most likely wouldn't be waiting for me anymore by then. I had to stick around for another 4 hours before the clock would strike midnight. I was sure time would go by a lot faster if I played ESO. I moved my gaze over to the PC monitor. My second character, LisaLot, was standing there aimlessly, not moving. Is the scenery your eyes perceive truly real? Senna's words came to mind. More than half of what she'd said was true. The only thing I couldn't find a source for was the part where she was talking about controlling even people's wills and bodies. Maybe that part was just a delusion of hers. Mixing in just a few lies with the truth was a clever and effective way to scare people, especially with threats. Even though my reasonable side knew all that, I couldn't help but feel scared as I thought about all the strange, inexplicable phenomena that had been plaguing me over the past few weeks. In a daze, I looked at LisaLot on the screen. LisaLot, is the scenery your eyes perceive truly real? Keeping my voice low to avoid being overheard, I whispered that absent-mindedly. I'd thought about something like this several times in the past. The world that I was looking at right now, Baselard, was the world that LisaLot lived in. It might have been real for her, but from my perspective, it was fake. Which meant that the world that I lived in was seen as fake from the point of view of the person controlling me. However, just as LisaLot couldn't perceive me as a higher being, I also couldn't perceive the person controlling me as a higher being. I wondered if LisaLot was thinking the same things that I was thinking. At the very least, she couldn't move on her own. I had to interfere in order for her to move. So, what about me? Maybe I, too, couldn't get up from this recliner without the interference of the person controlling me. To test this, I tried to stand up. I did it with ease. After that, I tried sitting down. It took no effort. See, but you're thinking you're in like an RPG, brother. See, you're in a freaking visual novel. I don't have direct control over everything you do. I'm kind of here along for the ride, just as a third person, bystander, just an observer of your world, so to speak. And then I get a chance to make a choice every now and then. You know what I mean? Like on things that are important or seemingly important anyway, if they're not. But, you know, so it's a little different, you know. That probably throws you off, you know. You're like, oh, no, I have control of myself. And it's like, well, right now you do. You have complete control over yourself until I have to make a decision for you, right? So it's kind of funny. But this sequence of events, was it really of my own volition? Or was it the result of someone's interference? I had no way of knowing. Huh? I heard the sound of the partition door to the private room being opened behind me. And at the same time, I felt someone come in. Startled, I turned around. Oh, she's actually there! Oh, frick! She cornered him. Yo. Kusunoki. Yua. This music's so freaking hype for what this is. I was so terrified that I was about to scream. Look at her eyes, I love it. But Yua's hand quickly covered my mouth. Her hand was hot, and the scent of Yua's sweat infiltrated my nose. Be quiet. Don't make a sound. Promise not to make a sound. Will you promise me? You better not say otherwise. Promise me. You'll do it, won't you? Do it. I love this tick that she has. That's the thing, right? Is this actually Yua? Because the Yua that sent us an email seems different, right? She has all this anxiety and she's all like, oh no, I don't know if I can send this email. And then she's like cornering us in a room and like telling us to be quiet. You know what I mean? Like she's being super assertive and aggressive right now versus how she acts when she's typing. Also, this jazz music is freaking sick, I gotta say. Holy crap. Please. Oh, frick. Well, we know not to click the green button, so we'll just, this isn't a bad moment. I don't think this is a bad moment, so we'll leave it neutral again. In this small private room, the only way out was blocked by Yua. The next thing I knew, my shoulders were being held down with such incredible force, I couldn't even get up from the seat. Yua's cold gaze pierced through me at point-blank range. I couldn't help but look away, and my eyes fell on the 3 ghetto froggies attached to the bag she was carrying on her shoulder. All right, don't make a sound. Huh? What do I do? What should I do? I tried desperately to think of a way out of this situation, but it was no use. I couldn't think clearly. She had taken me completely by surprise. My mind had gone completely blank. I went to your house yesterday, but you weren't there. Even so, I waited there until late last night. But I understand how you feel. Why you were trying to avoid me. I really do. I deceived you, Nishijo-kun. If you acknowledge that, then just stay away from me. I have nothing to say to any of Shogun's underlings. Anyone who traps a weak person like me is a demon. Yua looked down once. She looked like she was hesitating to say something. But then, after a moment, she, very clearly, said a single phrase. Whose eyes are those eyes? Yup, I knew it. Whose eyes are those eyes? You know it, don't you? You can't pretend otherwise. It was the dying message from the vampire case. It's been all over the internet, and it's a phrase that's incredibly popular throughout Shibuya. But even before it was popular,
I knew about it. There was a person using that phrase even before the vampire. Shogun.
Oh, Shogun sent it to her too. Never mind. I thought this was gonna be each individual person talking to themselves, maybe, right? Like, how'd you word that? Like, not their future self, but like, you know, some other part of their mind is trying to wake them up or something, right? But it's not. Shogun is his own person. Frick. So is it still Takumi or not? I still feel like it probably is, but that does away at least with that particular concept. Unless she has her own Shogun, which I don't think is the case. So, I don't know. I showed you it before, didn't I? The chat log between Nidhart and Shogun. Ooh. That was where Shogun had written it. Whose eyes are those eyes? Yeah, right, yeah, he sent it to us too. Which means... Yua inched her face closer and closer to mine. Her tone of voice was calm, but the eyes shining behind her glasses were ice cold. She was staring at me. I looked away. Shogun is you. In other words, what? Please, Nishijo-kun. Please. That was when I noticed. Yua's hands were trembling. Or was it just that my hands were shaking so much, it made it look like hers were too? While I pondered that, something unbelievable came out of her mouth. Don't kill anyone anymore. Oh no, is it Shogun killing people? Oh no, no, no! It can't be us, it can't be. What? You aren't even aware of it, are you? But I understand that too. After all, you have no way of knowing, Nishijo-kun. Knowing? Knowing what? Yua's eyes shone with sorrow. Even though she had been staring at me intently until now, she suddenly cast her eyes downward. Have DID. Multiple personalities. Wait, really? Or is that just what she diagnosed us with? Like, because I doubt we actually have a different personality. It's probably like a, again, I think it's like an older version of ourself or something is still my guess, but I don't think we're like two different people. I think something else is happening to us. I believe Senna more than I believe her, because I think she's still trying to figure all this out herself, where Senna seems to have, she has an understanding. She knows what's up, so. I had multiple personalities? At first, I fully intended on turning you over to the police. Despite how confused I was, Yua continued to talk. And if I couldn't do that, I thought I'd try this method instead. But when I investigated you, I found that you were suffering just as much as I was. Yeah, aw. The eyes behind Yua's glasses once again took hold of me. They pleaded with me. And no matter how hard I tried to see it as something else, I couldn't see her as anything other than genuinely worried about me. And that horrified me. I want to help you. This girl's delusions were getting out of control. What she was saying was totally insane. Or was it? Was it really insane? So,
Let's go to the hospital. We'll do it together. I didn't truly know myself. Understand myself. I had posted in a chat room under the handle Shogun without knowing it. Even though I had no memory of it, I had become friends with a girl named Dimi. It wasn't just me sleepwalking. And it wasn't some higher being controlling me. Maybe the person controlling me from inside my head literally was inside my head. Well, see, so I have been thinking that, for sure. I've definitely been thinking it's been inside his head. I just don't think he has multiple personalities. I think it's the same him, but like just a different version of him, like an older version or something. I keep reiterating that, but it's just because I'm like trying to subvert what he's saying, because I don't think that's the way that it's going. You know, usually whatever they say is usually not the case. So I doubt it's what he's. I doubt it's some form of like another person. You know, like a completely different personality. I wasn't me. I wasn't me. I was a different personality. I had multiple personalities. My head hurt. A throbbing, stabbing pain ripped through it. That wasn't possible! The entire thing was bullcrap! Who would ever believe that? It, too, was yet another one of Yua's delusions. She was my enemy. She was impeding my way of life. She was trying to trap me. She was trying to destroy my mind. Even the hospital itself was under Shogun's reign. The only person I trusted, Dr. Takashina, had disappeared in such a sudden, inexplicable manner. Shogun must have made him disappear. And if I did what Yua said, he'd make me disappear too. I don't believe her. It's not true. 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 I was stuck in my own head. I shoved Yua off me with every ounce of strength I could muster. Slamming into the wooden sliding door behind her, Yua slumped down to the floor with a grimace. Finally freed from Yua's grasp, I grabbed my bag, stepped over Yua's body, and made for the exit. Wait! Still crumpled on the floor, Yua grabbed my ankle. Her hair was disheveled, and her glasses were falling off her face, but she made no effort to fix them. Seeing her clinging so desperately to me terrified me so much. A pathetic scream escaped from my mouth. She was my enemy, one of Shogun's underlings. I won't be deceived! I won't be deceived by you ever again! Don't touch me! I shouted as loud as I could, and Yua quickly let go of me. In that window, I bolted out of the room. I tore a 5,000 yen bill from my wallet and slammed it down on the counter in front of the dumbfounded receptionist. And then, without getting my change, I burst onto the elevator leading outside. I nearly tumbled out of the elevator as I burst outside. The sun was already setting. I examined my surroundings. There were people everywhere. Run. It doesn't matter where, just run. My base wasn't safe. She was following me. I had no idea where to even go, but I started running anyway. Thinking that Yua might get off another elevator at any moment now. That she might threaten me again in that ice-cold voice of hers. I didn't want to stay there for even a second longer. I looked behind me over and over again, but I kept on running regardless of what I saw. The pedestrians were all in the way. I bumped into a businessman and a DQN-esque high school girl. When that happened, I was showered with curses. But I still didn't stop. I just kept on running. It hurt to breathe. I'd picked some random road without thinking, and I still had no idea where I was running. I stopped to catch my breath. I checked the scenery around where I was standing. It was in front of Maruichi, which meant I could take shelter in Miyashita Park. I would take a quick break there, then I would run somewhere farther away. If I went to Yoyogi Park, there would be plenty of places to hide, so I could spend the night there. I couldn't help but wonder what was behind me. I didn't see any signs of Yua. However, I wouldn't be surprised if she appeared in front of me at any second now, complete with the most terrifying demonic expression I'd ever encountered. My instinct screamed at me. Run! You need to run! Exhausted, I weakly sat down on the pavement of the Miyashita Park overpass. Wait, what does that say? It says, the Great King of Terror has something this city. I don't know if it says chose or claimed this city, I can't tell. I'd run way too much. My throat was dying. I wanted to drink a nice ice-cold cola. But I didn't see any vending machines nearby. Maybe I was okay now that I'd come this far. No, I couldn't be careless. I still had to be fully aware of my surroundings. There should only be a few people in Miyashita Park at night. Or at least, that was what I'd expected. But much to my surprise, that wasn't the case. There was a businessman walking briskly through the park, likely using it as a shortcut. An older man sitting on a bench messing with his cell phone. Several homeless people sitting around absent-mindedly, and lastly, a person wearing blue talking to one of them. A police officer. This is probably a time where it would be a green one, right? There's no reason for it to not be green. I could try it. It'd probably be okay, right? Unless it's a woman cop, which they didn't say. I'll give it a shot, right? Like I said, I still want to make choices. But anytime I know that there's a girl, I can't click it. That's what I know. But I don't know this time. So we're gonna try. I'll click it for now. I'll click it for now. The police. I gulped audibly. I remembered that I'd been questioned by a pair of detectives a while ago. I hadn't heard a single thing from them since then. They'd said they were going to guard the area surrounding my base, but there was no sign of them following through on it. Although, according to Miss Mikun, they'd apparently come to investigate Suime. Those two detectives. What were their names again? I couldn't remember. I'd told both of them the truth about what I'd witnessed at the scene of the crucifixion, but in hindsight, I couldn't help but think that they'd clearly been looking at me with suspicion as I did. Right as I thought that, the policeman, who had been talking to the homeless man, glanced at me. Or at least, that was how it felt. Oh no. It's fine, right? It's fine? Please tell me it's not a... I promise you I'm going to be mad. No. I had to be imagining things. There was no way the police would suspect me of anything. I wasn't a murderer. I wouldn't hurt a fly. Forget that for now. I'd just take a break for a little bit longer. My chest still hadn't stopped pounding. Wait, was that correct? So if I would have stayed neutral, would something have happened? Okay, it didn't do the whole like thing again, you know?
So, okay, that was a good choice. That was a good green button, right? Right? Okay. For no particular reason, I looked up at the night sky as my shallow breathing continued. I couldn't see any stars. The glaring artificial light that shone above the ground cast a thin veil across the Shibuya sky. It blocked out even the faintest light of the stars that had traveled for decades, for centuries, to get here, transforming the night sky into a flat and motionless blackness. What a piece of crap sky. But that was normal for Shibuya. For someone living in Shibuya, this sky was my sky. City sky, right? I returned my gaze to the policeman from earlier, and I jumped. The policeman was coming toward me. I had to avoid making eye contact. Uh-oh, wait a minute. I stood up and turned my eyes to the road stretching under the overpass. Okay, so this probably is what needed to happen, but see what would have I'm sure if I picked red, he would have freaked out and thought, "Don't touch me, they're coming after me," or whatever. But if I would have stayed neutral, he might have done something just less dramatic of that nature, and that also would have been bad. Maybe. I don't know. I feel like I picked the right answer, though. The footsteps were getting closer and closer. I prayed from the bottom of my heart that they would pass me by. But... "Excuse me." A voice called out, one that was clearly directed at me. "Can I have a moment?" My heartbeat, which had only just started to calm down, began to violently pound in my chest once more. Sorry. I'm in a hurry." "Can't say it looks like it." What reason could this cop have possibly had for talking to me? I started putting a list together inside my head. 1, because I'm alone at night in an unusual place. 2, because I look suspicious. 3, because they're questioning people at random. 4, because the police think I'm a suspect for the new gen case. "Do you have any ID on you?" "Oh, I know. You have a student handbook, don't you? You mind showing it to me?" Darn it! I didn't have time for this! I needed to hurry up and hide somewhere less conspicuous. If I didn't, Yua would find me again. But if I ran away from the cops, I could get arrested for obstruction of justice. Not only that, but if they were investigating me because of reason 4, then bolting would put me in an even worse position. Regardless of the circumstances, I had to get past this cop, and I had to do it fast. With no other options, I took my student handbook out from inside my uniform pocket and handed it to the officer. The officer took it and flipped it open to check my name and photo. Immediately after, something changed in his face. His expression stiffened. What? What was up with him? Did my name really warrant that kind of reaction? Maybe I really am a new gen suspect. The police were mistaken. I hadn't done anything. Yua made up her mind and decided that I was the new gen criminal. She said I just wasn't aware of it. That couldn't be true. I didn't sleepwalk. I didn't have multiple personalities. Well, we do know you sleepwalk, so that much we do know, and we do know you typed speaking as Shogun, so as we know that to some degree you at least become a zombie and start typing stuff, so whatever that is, sleepwalk, whatever, mind control, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, but it was you doing it, so. Stop screwing with my head! Thank you for your time. To my surprise, the policeman readily returned my handbook to me. He then quickly turned back around and headed toward the park, almost as if running away.
How he was acting spoke far louder than words. I had a terrible feeling about this. I bet he was there waiting for Takumi or something, right? I mean, definitely we know Ban believes that Takumi is a part of this in some way. So he, and I think he didn't Suwa did a presentation that said there's this kid, we just can't really tell who he is. So everyone's probably looking for this kid and wanting to look out for him and stuff, and we already know Ban found him and talked to him, so I mean, at least from an audience perspective, we kind of know they're already suspicious of him, and to some degree, right? So, okay. Did they actually suspect me? I stared at the officer's back, frozen. Then, the policeman suddenly gave a light bow to the man sitting on the bench. Or at least, that was what it looked like. Something's off. Was it just my imagination? I knew for a fact that he'd looked at the man on that bench. But I couldn't figure out if he'd actually bowed to him, or if it just looked like he had. The policeman left the park directly after that. The man on the bench looked like he was still messing with his cell phone. Looked like being the key words. It didn't even look like his fingers were moving. I couldn't see him clearly because of the darkness. Normally, the cell phone screen would be glowing, but the one he was holding was completely dark. Something's really off here. I looked around to check on everyone else in the park. One of the homeless people was slouching on the ground at the base of a large tree, a spot that was far removed from the others. He didn't move in the slightest. All he did was hold up a strange sign, his face staring down on the ground. The 3 or so homeless people squatting in front of the small hut covered by a blue tarp didn't seem to be having much of a conversation. They were just sitting around in a circle. One of them had their hand over their mouth. It almost seemed like they were doing it deliberately. Like they were trying to cover their mouth with their hand and collar or something. Or at least, that was what it looked like. I don't know why exactly, but something feels off. There was a strange sense of tension seizing the air. Granted, it could have just been my imagination, but... Hold on. Was it possible that everyone was an undercover cop? That delusion floated up to the top of my head, and I shuddered. I frantically told myself that it was nothing more than that. A delusion. But even if it was, I didn't want to stay here any longer. Time to run. I broke into a sprint. I ran across the overpass and headed for the stairs leading down to Mejidori. I stopped right in front of them and whipped around to look behind me. The man on the bench was getting up. None of the other people moved. His body turned toward me, but his head was facing sideways. He was making his way toward me. He seemed to be walking a little faster than someone normally would. He was chasing me. That man was a detective. His build was unusually bulky. I didn't even know what his job could be otherwise. I couldn't figure anything out from his appearance alone. I can't tell if he's a detective from just that. No, he had to be one. There was no way he wasn't one. He was tailing me. I couldn't stay here. I bolted down the stairs. Crap! 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 Now it wasn't just Yua that was after me, but the police too. And I hadn't done anything wrong. I hadn't done anything at all. Should I just tell them I was innocent? But even if I did, I couldn't get away from the fact that I was literally running away from the police right now. Besides, I was sure that the police would find some way to pin it on me regardless. They would never believe an otaku freak like me. I didn't have time to think about what would happen next. For now, I just needed to get away from Yua and the police. That was the sole thought occupying my mind. I passed under a pedestrian overpass and ran up the stairs leading to it. There were people everywhere. All of them were blocking my path. It felt as if each and every one of them were deliberately getting in my way, like they all had some form of malicious intent. Everyone looked like they could be cops. I was this close to completely panicking. I looked behind me and saw someone sprinting after me. I caught a glimpse of a person cutting through the crowd just like I was. It was one of the people that I'd seen in the park. I didn't know who it was. It didn't matter. They were following me regardless. I was horrified. If I got caught, my life would be over. I would be falsely accused of a crime I didn't commit, sentenced to death, locked up in a high-security prison for decades, and then after I finished enduring that living hell, I would finally be told, "Alrighty then, your number's up. Time for you to die." I didn't want that. I wouldn't be able to handle that. I didn't want to live like that. Even if I somehow managed to prove that it was a false accusation, once I was branded as a criminal, it would never go away. Everyone around me would look at me suspiciously for the rest of my life. That's an actually true issue too, but that's a whole different topic. That's a different topic for another time, but yeah, that is like a true thing. I actually have an issue with that kind of just like stains somebody for the rest of their life like that. But anyway, I digress. We're in a chase right now. I didn't want that. I hadn't even done anything. Oh, Gigantus, okay. I turned onto a small street that was completely deserted and kept running as hard as I could. But I had been running ever since I'd left at Cafe, and I still hadn't been able to catch my breath. My lungs were begging for oxygen. My legs were shaking with fatigue. I hated myself for not exercising more, but it was too late for that regardless. Finally, I couldn't run anymore, so I doubled over and gripped my knees with my hands. The place where I'd stopped looked familiar. The distinctive red brick walls paired with the gigantic backlit sign that read Gigantus. I'd been here before, with Miss Mikun. We'd come to see the Phantasm concert. Or to be more specific, to see their lead singer, Fess. But now, the place was quiet and empty, with the only other light being from the vending machine dimly illuminating my surroundings. Frustrated that my breathing still hadn't gone back to normal, I looked back toward the road I had sprinted down. The street was dimly lit and narrow. As the Toyoko Line train slowly passed by directly above me, despite the striking glow of the light leaking from the windows of the train, even it didn't reach the streets below. I stared at the road in front of me. I wondered if I had managed to lose them. Them being Yua and the police. It was too dark for me to tell for sure. Come with me. Suddenly, I heard a woman's voice in my ear, and I let out a pathetic scream before toppling to the ground. I had a feeling it would be Fess. It was Fess, dressed in a flashy outfit that she would wear to a concert. As she quietly looked down at me, from the darkness, the eruptive energy that she'd given off while she was on stage was now completely absent, making her appear almost transient, like she might disappear at any moment. Because of the darkness, I couldn't see her expression. As my mind wandered in my surprise, Fess gently held her hand out to me. Stand up, quickly. Her tone of voice was dispassionate, but I could tell that she wasn't going to let me argue with her. Still holding out her hand, Fess slowly craned her neck, then narrowed her eyes as if she had seen through the darkness. We need to run. Why? Did she know that I'd been running from Yua and the police? I was freaked out for a second, but I knew that right now, salvation was almost within my grasp. That was why, as if I was clinging to my only hope left, I took her hand. Her hand was cold to the touch. Right as I stood up, Fess started running. As I was already utterly exhausted, I felt incredible resentment. But I knew that if it hadn't been for Fess, I would have never been able to stand up again, and the police would have likely caught up with me. I still wanted to quench my dying thirst in some way, but I knew I couldn't afford to. Fess pulled me by the hand and led us forward. We entered a narrow alleyway and made turn after turn at various intersections. I had no idea where I was running to. I wasn't even familiar with the layout of Shibuya, so I had no choice but to follow Fess the entire time. I nearly entertained the idea that this could be another trap set by Shogun, but I shook the thought from my head. Even if Fess was another one of Shogun's underlings, there would be nothing I could do about it. My legs were heavy with lactic acid, and I was starting to feel lightheaded, probably because my brain hadn't been getting enough oxygen due to all the running. I was this close to crying out and saying that I couldn't run anymore. In fact, I may or may not have said it several times unconsciously. But even so, Fess never once looked back at me. She just kept on going. Before I knew it, I found myself on a road where the Shunto Expressway ran overhead. Shibuya Station was only a little bit farther away, but there were barely any people around. Without a shred of hesitation, Fess started to head down the stairs that led into the gaping maw of the underground. Okay. Upon reaching the bottom of the stairs, she finally came to a stop. I let go of Fess's hand and doubled over on the stairs, gasping for breath. I wondered how much running I had done today. I didn't think I'd ever exercised so much in my entire life. For a while, the only sounds present in the dim, dreary underground tunnel were the sounds of me and Fess breathing. I looked up at the entrance where we had just come down from, but there was no sign of our pursuers. I guess that meant we'd managed to escape somehow. That aside, this was my first time learning that this underground passage even existed. On top of that, even though it was fairly close to the station, there wasn't a single person passing through it. One of the fluorescent lights that illuminated the tunnel was on its last legs, flickering on and off without end. There was the faint smell of rotting garbage in the air. It was a place that symbolized the underground side of Shibuya. If someone were to attack me here, even if I screamed as loud as I could, it may not even reach the outside. This was not a place I would ever want to come alone. Okay. Well, we know Fess is with us, so it's not green this time. So I'll stay neutral, because I'm sure she's here to help us. Still breathing heavily, I slowly examined Fess's profile. She was a charismatic songstress who captivated the youth of Shibuya. People even called her a prophet. And now, that very same Fess was here alone with an otaku freak piece of crap like me. I wasn't sure what to make of it. Her forehead was beading with sweat, with several drops running down her cheeks. She was wiping it off with the back of her hand. Her breasts, exposed through her camisole, rose and fell with every breath she took. A glimpse providing healthy eroticism in an atmosphere flowing with ennui. Moe. Moe didn't do it justice. The best and only possible word befitting of her was erotic. Yep, dodge that bullet. That was an obvious one. She was tall, had a great body, and she looked like a model. I was sure she was popular with the guys, too. Wait, what kind of stupid crap was I thinking about? Did I forget the situation I was in? I didn't. You would have if I would have clicked the green button, though.
You were being pursued, were you not?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
By the police?
I nodded in response. It wasn't just the police. Yua was following me too, but I was too exhausted to tell her that.
I am the same.
Huh? What was that supposed to mean?
They asked me if there was a connection between the lyrics I wrote and some incident I cannot recall the name of. They were very insistent.
New Gen. The lyrics that Fess had written matched up with that string of incidents. That was why her sheep wouldn't shut up with all those rumors. They'd been saying that she was a prophet.
It seems that they suspect me.
As the New Gen criminal? I'd thought the same thing back when I'd first heard her lyrics. Heck, I'd even thought that Fess herself was Shogun. But considering the fact that she'd saved me, she probably wasn't. Putting all that aside, I wondered why Fess was even there. Her saving me must have just been a coincidence. Yeah, it had to be. I don't think so. I think she had some, she probably did some, telepathy garbage and was like, oh, he's over by Gigantus. I have to go help him, you know? I mean, I'd been right in front of the concert venue. So there was probably just another concert today. Or because she's a prophet, right? I'm noticing everybody has, slightly different powers from one another. I think Demi's the only one that has telepathy so far. I think, where she's been reading our mind. Although Senna might have as well. No, Senna did, so never mind. Okay. Never mind. I was gonna say, I thought maybe all of them had just one particular kind of, precognitive mental power of some kind, you know what I mean? So maybe Fess's was just, prophesying. But, no, probably not. But I have a feeling she probably, prophesied where we were gonna be, saw into the future type of deal. Had a That's So Raven moment, you know?
You were being pursued as well. Why? Did you do something wrong?
She told the police.
Huh?
That girl. She told the police that I'm... She's making me out to be the New Gen criminal. Yua was trying to set me up. Gosh darn it! Shogun and that girl were going to ruin my life!
I see. So we are both potential suspects, then.
Why was she laughing? I'm innocent! I yelled out frantically, my voice reverberating loudly throughout the underpass. But I couldn't stop now. I was just a witness. I took some evidence back home with me without thinking. That's all. I didn't kill anyone.
Then,
Fess whispered, returning to her original dispassionate voice.
It must be the guidance of a higher power.
What? Another freaking mental case? Oh no. Yeah, you're kind of surrounded by them at this point, buddy. Gonna have to... the only thing... they say if you can't beat them... Another gosh darn Chinipio!
Whether or not what you saw was real or an illusion is inconsequential.
That horrible scene. Was there any possibility that it had all been just a delusion? But it had all felt so real. The pain and anger you are harboring now, it is all necessary. What was she saying? I was utterly dejected. I had been slightly suspicious back at that concert, and I'd turned out to be right. Fess really was a total schizo freak. They say there's a fine line between genius and insanity, but this is pushing it. That is why you must find it. Quickly. Find your sword. I was taken aback. That was what Fess had told me back when we met at school. If you do, you'll be granted salvation. She'd said this before. Aside from the police, what scared me the most was Shogun and his underlings. I had no idea why, but they were all trying to trap me, and they all clearly had a malicious intent. In order to save myself from them, in order to protect myself, I needed a dye sword? Yes. Fess's lips twisted into the shape of a smile. You have been studying, it seems. If that's what you mean, then I already got one. I have a dye sword. It's at my house. I know. She knew? How did she know? I saw. You were walking directly in the middle of Shibuya. You were gripping a large toy, and you looked fairly embarrassed. Was she talking about the day I'd bought the dye sword? Fess had seen me. Screw my life. Wait a minute. What did she just said? A toy? The smile had already disappeared from Fess's face. She glanced at my face and let out a small sigh. Her sense of ennui, her aloofness, was so pure, it made me feel uneasy. The sword you bought is a fake.
Oh, it is? Oh, okay. I actually thought it was going to be like a Holy Grail sword situation. Okay. Okay. All right. That's fine. So there is an actual real dye sword. Is it going to be something she's going to be like, you have to pull it from your soul, or something. And he has to like grab into his chest like that one anime. I don't remember what anime that is. You have to like pull the sword out of your chest and whatnot. I wasn't even that surprised. I'd expected it, honestly. The sword I'd bought was way too cheap compared to the one Senna had. It didn't even glow. Besides, the idea that a sword that would supposedly bring me salvation was being sold for 10,000 yen alongside sex toys was the least anime thing possible. So yeah, I wasn't surprised. Instead, I felt a furious surge of anger well up inside me. Anger at the gloomy shopkeeper who'd tricked me. Anger at myself for being so pathetic that I'd be tricked that easily. Anger at Fess for saying nothing meaningful in the slightest instead of just giving me a straight answer. Fine. I stood up and moved closer to Fess. Normally, I would have never have done something like that. But I was desperate. I'd been being chased by Yua and the police only a few moments ago, and I was absolutely terrified. Not only that, but in the past month or so, I'd experienced countless bad thoughts. It was all too much for me. I couldn't take it anymore. I had to get my hands on a sword so I could get back to my peaceful way of life. Tell me, how do I get my hands on a dye sword? Fess's expression stiffened, and then She turned to me. Watch. Kingdom Hearts style? She suddenly thrust the palm of her right hand out in front of me. Stopping me from coming any closer, Fess curled her right hand into a fist. And upon swinging her hand behind her in a motion resembling a back fist, together, with a sound akin to that of glass breaking, the empty space cracked, and then it shattered. My eyes went wide. I was speechless. Yes, hopefully this will wake him up, because now he'll finally have someone to talk to, and she'll be like his mentor. I've been waiting for this moment this whole time, man. We're freaking almost 20 episodes in, and finally we're just now getting to where he's gonna be like understanding stuff for once. Dang. Okay. Fess stared at me. Her expression had not changed in the slightest. Within the cracks of the shattered space was a deep darkness spreading wide. With her hand buried between the fissures, Fess pulled her hand back toward her with tremendous force. Whoa! Yo, look at that, dude. Sick. And now, within that hand, was a giant sword. A die sword! The fissures in the empty space were repaired in an instant. The cracks disappeared as if nothing had ever happened. It all happened in the span of a few seconds. Had that been a magic trick? Or was what I was seeing just a delusion? It was far too removed from reality. I couldn't believe what had just happened right in front of me. This was a fantasy. A fantasy anime. This sword is that which bends fate to its will. Look at that, that's pretty sick looking. That sword. It was the same one she'd been wielding at the concert. The same one I'd mistaken for a microphone stand. Its shape almost looked like a battleship ripped straight from a sci-fi anime. This sword is that which converges all sorrows. There's that word convergence again. Or converge, but you know what I mean. Huh, okay. There were no straight lines to be found on it. And yet, it appeared incredibly sharp. Incredibly beautiful. Incredibly sinister. This sword is that which interferes with the transcendental place. And that if you so much as touched it, your fingers would be severed from the bone. Wait, what do you mean transcendental place? I was mesmerized. Her die sword utterly captivated me. Which was why I'd asked her that without thinking. Yo, look at that. That's the coolest weapon I've seen so far. Oh, I guess technically we only saw two, so I guess we'll see. It is akin to another space. Oh boy, info dump time. This was definitely an anime at this point. The amount of meta going on right now. Another possibility. Within the same dimension. Oh, so like world lines, huh? Okay. Yeah, that's like Steins Gate 2. Interesting. Or perhaps a delusion. A delusion? Stating it that way does not provide much in the way of meaning. The sole thing we can know for certain, however, is that this sword exists within that region. So, in other words, she was saying that her die sword was a product of her delusions? Did that mean that the supernatural
I'd seen before had also been delusions? Had they not been real? That's impossible. Oh? If it was a delusion, then why was I seeing Fess's sword right now? Do not be led astray by words. Try turning around. I was baffled by Fess's request, but I complied anyway. Behind me was a flight of stairs, and on those stairs was Fess, wearing her school uniform. Oh, what? Fess was standing right beside me. Fess was also standing on the stairs right in front of me. Two of the same person in the same place. Completely and utterly flustered, I relentlessly snapped back and forth between the two Fesses over and over again, comparing them. They were exactly the same, right down to their facial features, height, and hairstyles. The only differences were their clothes, and whether or not they were carrying a sword. They weren't twins or anything like that, and they didn't just look alike. They were one and the same. Yo, what the frick? This too is your delusion. The two Fesses said that at the exact same time. My head started to hurt. What kind of insane phenomenon was this crap? What the heck was happening?